Certificates of authenticity, are they worth it? Are they worth the paper they're written on, or are they just a marketing gimmick, or are they something else completely? Thank you for watching today. My name is Jason Roski. I'm the owner of the KC Auction and Appraisal Company here in Kansas City, Missouri, and we really appreciate you watching the video this week. I'm going to try and share this on my personal page here in just a second. What we're going to talk today about is the certificate of authenticity that many of you are familiar with. You've heard the term for quite a while. And we're going to talk about where that actually came from, what is the history of it. I'll show that there. There we go. What's the history of it, and what does it mean in today's marketplace value? Does it affect value? Does it not affect value? Is it important or is it not? So, certificate of authenticity, the actual term, you can find reference to it in Google's word search, the Ngram, where you can put in a phrase or a word and look at how often it's been published over time. It actually was published with a little bit of frequency in the 1830s, 1870s, from 1900 to 1925, and then it kind of started up again around World War II. What I could find out is that they're basically all related to either real estate or scientific journals. If you were trying to establish ownership of a piece of property, a parcel of land, you needed a certificate of authenticity stating that you clearly owned that property. It was almost like a deed. Similarly, for scientific journals, the certificate of authenticity was the governing board issuing a certificate saying that the work was authentic and that it was indeed as stated. Interesting historical tidbits, but what we're really talking about today is the certificate of authenticity that really began to be used in the 1960s, with the first peak of the usage of the term and in the marketplace around 1980. That is when collector plates became popular. The Bradford Exchange, one of their 1980s, got a high water mark for them, or an early high water mark. And so the conversation around collector plates and what made them worth more or less, the original box, the certificate of authenticity, all of those things, that was a really popular term to be talked about and published at that time in newspapers and magazines, also in media that covered just current events because it was such a huge thing. You know, that, if you remember correctly, back at that point, plates were being issued at $20 selling out. And then the aftermarket, they could bring hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars for a single plate, much like the Beanie Baby craze 8 years later. That's where the certificate of authenticity terminology really peaked in popularity. Now we see it used with almost anything with the term collectible associated with it. And we see it a lot with artwork, especially in limited edition prints, whether it's lithographs, serigraphs, or related printing techniques. That is where we see it used more often now. And so that's where this conversation is going to center and focus. Thanks for watching, Dennis. Thanks for watching, Stacy. If you guys hit the like button, the share, the love, if you have a question or comment, please post it here. I'll be happy to answer it during the conversation. Or if you want to send me a private message or email or text, we can do that as well. I'll give you the contact information at the end of the conversation this week. So the certificate of authenticity that we think about most often in the auction industry today is a piece of paper that accompanies an object stating that the item being sold is actually what it purports to be. Sounds like a really good, valid thing. If you have an object with a COA, short term for certificate of authenticity, you have the object, the COA, it should be worth more money. That COA should make that object worth more money at the end of the day to a dealer or purchaser or collector down the road. And oftentimes it does, but let's kind of break that down a little bit further. Certificate of authenticity, what exactly is it? And I meant to grab one out. First and foremost, read your certificate of authenticity that's being presented with the object. We sold a collection of autographs a couple of years ago, and many of them had COAs. Some of them were very legitimate. There were companies that are, their business is selling Hollywood autographs. And their business, they have a good reputation, they're well known in the industry, their certificate of authenticity has some merit and some meaning. We actually had one where authenticity was actually spelled incorrectly. So just look at the quality of the work being presented. If the certificate, the COA, is incorrect, odds are the object is incorrect. And when we appraise things, when appraisers have an opportunity to appraise an estate or an item or objects, and there's a collection. If one item is found to be incorrect, other items in that collection are more often than not incorrect. And when you have a certificate of authenticity that is incorrect, the object it's being sold with, the object that it's the primary object, can almost never be accurate because they didn't even have the COA done correctly. So how could the piece be an accurate piece? So they didn't take the time to do the paperwork correctly. It really degrades the value of the object in question. The other thing you want to be careful of, and we have seen this a couple of times, is and further to that same conversation, verify that the COA that you have was actually issued by the body or the organization or the association that it purports to have been authorized and edited and published by. We recently had a piece of artwork that had a COA that looked good. We contacted the organization that had presented it, and they told us that they had not issued that document. And somebody had actually forged the COA and attached it to a forged object, and the work was really, really top notch. And it took us a while to figure that out, but honestly, the more value the item, the more time you want to make sure that what you're buying or selling is actually what it purports to be. And that's what makes it so crucial to have that information and documentation done correctly. Excuse me. So those are kind of outlier results. The certificate of authenticity that we see most often is accompanied with a lithograph of some sort, a serigraph or woodblock. And usually for a COA to have real value and importance, it's best to have it attached to the original receipt as well. If you buy a piece of artwork or a piece of anything as an investment and you think that a COA is important or was when you bought it, keep the original receipt with that object because it ties that receipt to that COA at the time that you purchased it. And even furthering that, photographs of the objects together at the time and even the place. If you have something that you hung in your house since you bought it in 1978 and it came with a COA, take it, the pictures of it in the house. All of that creates a body of work around an object that will make it more valuable. If I have two pieces of artwork by an artist that has one's just the lithograph, you're sure it's correct, everything, all the markings look right, and you have another one that has exactly the same thing, but it has the original issue COA, it has the original receipt associated with it, and a photograph of the item in the house. Well, this one over here is going to bring 20, 30, 40% more than this one over here, simply because it gives that comfort and it gives that security, and it lets the buyer know that, yes, this is exactly what they say it is. Every bit of documentation they have with it clearly states and clearly supports the idea that that piece, that print, that piece of whatever it is, pottery, glass, jewelry, that archive, that group of objects, the object, the COA, the original receipt, and photographs, that archive of objects makes the primary piece worth considerably more and more marketable in today's world. We're halfway through this week's conversation. Thank you for watching. Again, hit the like button, the share, the smiley face, the love button if you're enjoying what we're talking about, if you think your friends and family can benefit from this information as well. If you have questions, please post a comment here. I'll answer them as we're going forward, or I'll give you the contact information for us at the end. So if you are looking to purchase an item that has a certificate of authenticity, we kind of talked about some of the things to look for, but ask a couple of questions. If you're buying from an auction house, if you're buying from an estate sale, do they feel confident that that certificate of authenticity was issued with that piece by the original publishing institution? Or is it a certificate of authenticity that was acquired after the object was bought? We see this a lot in antique jade and Chinese artifacts and other pieces like that, where an item has been authenticated, and that is a different type of certificate of authenticity. If somebody, and we don't do that here, a lot of auctioneers don't do that. A lot of appraisers don't do that. Appraising an object and authenticating an object are different parts of the business. And so we can say if it is this, it's worth that. But we rarely will say, it's authentic because there's different legal ramifications of doing that. And so if you have a certificate of authenticity, it's a legally important document. If someone is found to create a COA with the idea of deceiving the public, that act alone can carry an up to 1 year prison sentence. In addition to the legal issues of creating a copy to sell as an original, the actual process of creating the fake certificate of authenticity carries legal ramifications. And if you're found to do that illegally, it will engage other laws that will further impact that. So if you're looking to buy, you want to make sure that the COA is correct and it actually matches the object. We've had instances where, and this just happened, where when the person bought the piece originally, the COA issued was for print number 172, and they actually bought print number 72. The numbers didn't match, and we made sure to disclose that, but that was just a mistake made 30, 40, 50 years ago. If you're buying a piece that has a certificate of authenticity issued for an object that was before that time frame, I saw when I was looking at this, newspapers.com you can buy old newspapers. I think that was the website, or other places do. They issue a certificate of authenticity that every paper that you buy from them is accompanied by a COA stating that document, that newspaper, is actually from May 9th, 1922. And so they provide a COA for an object that never had one originally, but they're basing that authentication on their history and experience with that asset. And therefore they feel comfortable and confident in doing so. They're a retail establishment and retail operation. You'll see this with coins. When you see a slabbed coin, that is essentially a certificate of authenticity from PSA or NGC or the others, stating that they looked at that coin and they put it in this sealed slab, stating that it's a 1882 Morgan dollar, Carson City, and it's in this condition. And if it's never removed from that slab, that coin that's in that slab is always correct. Anything can be faked. So you want to look for the telltale marks of an original compared to a fake and a reproduction. And that's where the COA becomes important. The COAs are really not important with lesser value collectibles because they're just lesser valuable objects and they may never have significant value. If something was, we've talked about this before, if something is made as a quote unquote collectible, odds are there's not a much of secondary market for it. Mass-produced anything will always be a mass-produced something, and just there's not a lot of people in today's market looking to acquire pieces that were mass-produced. That's going to change. We're seeing changes in the marketplace on a daily basis as different areas become more popular, less popular. But generally speaking, even going back historically, mass-produced objects have rarely sustained and or had large market value at any point in history. Excuse me. So the other things, as a seller, we kind of touched on this. If you have objects that a certificate of authenticity is expected to be offered with, let's say you collected lithographs back in the 70s and 80s, and they were issued with a certificate of authenticity from the gallery, you want to keep those together. Even if it's a large production object, you just want to keep that together. Even if it doesn't add a lot of value, it just makes it a more complete package. And as we just talked about, buyers, you want to keep those packages, those archives together as much as possible, and look for those when you're buying, because it just makes you more comfortable and confident with what you're purchasing. It also makes it easier to explain to heirs down the road what that object actually is. When you have paperwork with an item, it just makes it simple, especially if an object is a modern abstract artist piece and the artist signs it, really quickly or has a very distinct signature, but it's very illegible, which we see often. A certificate of authenticity immediately clarifies who it is, what it is, and all those kinds of things. And once you have a bit of information, you can make a more educated and pronounced judgment of value for yourself going forward. So I think that's it. I don't see any questions posted this week. Thank you all for watching. And we do this every week, a weekly question. Next week, I'm not sure, but we will come up with something interesting. If you have a question you'd like us to answer, please send us a message. You can drop a message here. You can send us a private message on our Facebook page. You can drop us an email at info at kcauctioncompany, spelled out.com, KCAUCTIONCOMPANY.com. You can give us a call at 816-283-3633. We're always willing, ready, and able to help and talk to you about any questions that you have, whether it's about antique artwork, silver, jewelry, furniture, estate liquidation, estate planning. That's what we do on a daily basis, and we really enjoy doing it. Exciting things happening around the auction house. We had a great auction close on Monday night. We have 2 more scheduled in the next month to go online, and they're both going to be spectacular auctions. So without further ado, have a great weekend. Enjoy your Friday. Hopefully it's spring and clean and joyful outside where you're at, and we'll have a great afternoon, great weekend. Thank you all so much for watching.